How's it going, everyone? I'm Salzy, and boy, do I have a story for all of you. Let's just jump into it. Once I got my medical card, I was hitting up a bunch of dispensaries to get those new patient deals. Usually dispensaries will give you a discount the first time or first few times that you buy from them as a medical patient. I had gone to a couple of dispensaries prior to this. I was interested mostly in the edibles and vapes. At this point, I had a pretty good dose figured out. If I took 2 5mg edibles, I was good, and if I hit my vape, I knew that I was good on 3 solid puffs. I had smoked flowers before, but they were super high CBD with very little THC. The 2 strains I tried were AC/DC and Harley Quinn, and these flowers were just about the lowest THC and highest CBD you can find at a dispensary. Well, I wanted to take a look at another dispensary. This dispensary was a bit farther away than the 2 main dispensaries I went to, and even though it was farther away, it still wasn't that far. I think it was like a 20 or 25 minute drive. I went in with a solid idea of what I wanted to get because I had looked at their website before going in. I had just used the last of my vape, so obviously I'm going to pick up another one, and I'm a bit greedy, so I'm like, I gotta try some other shit. I was interested in trying some more flowers, but I didn't want to get a full eighth of flower, I just wanted to dip my toes in. So naturally, I look at their selection of pre-rolls. Now this place had all the typical pre-rolls, most of their stock was 1 gram pre-rolls, but like I said, I just want to dip my toes in. And I also didn't have a ton of money. So I find the cheapest pre-rolls that still looked decent. I ended up choosing 2 types of pre-rolls, a lemon lime punch and a watermelon box. I had never heard of these strains before, but hey, they were cheap. The watermelon box was a pretty good balance between THC and CBD, which I thought would be good for my pain. The watermelon box strain was like 7% THC and 5% CBD, and the lemon lime punch was not a CBD heavy strain, it was just a typical 24% THC and negligible CBD. Both of these pre-rolls came in a 2-pack and each joint was half a gram. Each 2-pack of the pre-rolls was $14, so my total came to $28. I went to the dispensary pretty early in the day, I would say like 11 o'clock or noon, and usually I either prefer to smoke or have to smoke later in the day, depending on what needs to be done. If I know I have to drive somewhere or do something, I will wait to get high. I know a lot of people would still drive while high, but I personally won't get behind the wheel because when I'm high, I cannot function well enough to do anything that requires cognition. So I get home from the dispensary and I put away the pre-rolls and I put away the vape, thinking to myself that I'm going to break into these bad boys in a little bit. For some context about my living situation, I still live with my mom due to my disabilities. My dad is still in the picture, but he lives at an apartment with his girlfriend about half an hour away. I have 2 siblings, my brother who is living at college, and my oldest sibling, who we'll call Cameron, is currently back living at home due to some medical issues. Cameron is 23 and non-binary, so I will be using they/them pronouns for them. So it's an average Sunday. Cameron and I are home most of the day. My mom doesn't work on Sundays, but on this particular Sunday, she had a work outing with her coworkers, so she wasn't home for a few hours. Eventually, I am ready to bust out these pre-rolls. I decided to start with the watermelon box because it had a significantly lower percentage of THC. I asked Cameron, yo, do you think I will get high from this high CBD pre-roll? Now, Cameron has been smoking weed for a few years themselves, so I trusted their judgment. They say, yeah, since that's a half gram, you should get a pretty nice high, but nothing crazy. So I'm like, bet, I'm just gonna go light this up. So I head outside, I light up the joint, and I'm just milking this thing. I'm smoking, and I feel absolutely nothing. So I end up smoking the entire joint. And only a minute after finishing, I know I fucked up. I stand up and get myself back inside. I can feel the world vaguely spinning around me. As soon as I step in the house, I know I gotta eat something. I go straight to the kitchen. I am a man with a plan. We bought this really good pumpkin bread the day before, so almost like a zombie, I walk into the kitchen and I make a beeline for this bread. When I say I savagely attacked this bread, I mean it. I opened up that bag as if time was running out. If I didn't eat right now, I was going to die. We had eaten maybe 2/3 of this loaf, so I sliced the thickest slice, leaving behind a tiny sliver for my mom and Cameron to eat later. I take that slice, no plate, no napkin, and I sit at the kitchen table and devour it. You can tell I ate it because I left behind the evidence of the crumbs I couldn't bother to clean up at the time. I finished this bread like I was in an eating competition. I mean, I wolfed down this 2-inch thick piece of bread in under 3 minutes. I finished the bread and I just sit there staring into space. I was enjoying the tranquility of it all. I didn't feel the need to do anything. Like, I didn't go on my phone. I really wasn't doing anything. I just sat there staring until I noticed my body. I was rocking back and forth and side to side because I felt dizzy. Not in the normal way dizziness feels. I didn't feel nauseated. I just felt like I was on a boat and I had to sway my body to keep myself upright. I'm sitting here for a good while just rocking back and forth. I start to feel like I'm falling even though my feet are on the ground. It's almost like I can't even feel my feet or feel the floor. So essentially, I'm sitting in this chair and I feel like there's this abyss beneath my feet. At this moment, I realize that I really fucked up. I don't feel scared, I'm actually quite calm, and I'm feeling relief from my chronic pain even, but I know that I took too much and I had to tell someone. So I stand up and I'm trying to steady myself, and I start walking towards Cameron's room, since they're the only person around at this time. Their back is to me, they're doing something on their laptop in their room, and I just stand there in the doorway and I say, "Yo, Cameron, I think I took too much weed." And they look over and can see me swaying, and they just get this shit-eating grin and come over to me. Now, they've been high, and they've been around high people. They're really good about comforting me and always know what to do to help me. I'm honestly so glad to have them around in times like these when I fuck up. Without hesitation, they're like, "Yeah, I'd say you look a little high." And they laugh and say, "Bro, let's go put on some TV and we can just chill together." And I'm immediately down. I don't usually like to just sit and watch TV, but I know I was going to be couch locked. We go into the living room and I immediately lay down, which partially alleviates the dizzy feeling. Cameron puts on the show Community, and to this day I cannot tell you at all what I watched because I was so high. I do remember that Community is a pretty fun show to watch while you're high because it's just so ridiculous. And it really, when you're high, it really makes you think. I don't know, man. After laying down for a few minutes, my legs start to convulse. I had these small but continuous muscle spasms. Now this freaks me out a bit because I have complex regional pain syndrome, and this CRPS is located in my legs. These muscle spasms, if I wasn't high, would hurt like hell. The weed counteracts the pain feeling that I would normally get from muscle spasms, but I was worried that once I stopped being high, that pain would carry over. Still, I'm sitting there for a while and these muscle spasms don't go away, and I'm worried that this will definitely impact my chronic pain. But hey, there's not much I can do about this now. I'm stuck and I'm gonna have to deal with the consequences later. I must have sat through 3 episodes of Community, and then Cameron gets bored with the show and asks if we can continue watching this other show that we were like 5 episodes into. Now I really liked this show so far, so I'm like, hell yeah, pull it up. And not a second later, I realized I'm not going to remember this episode at all in like 2 hours. This is the kind of show that you have to pay attention to and watch all the episodes in order. But hey, I can rewatch it, so they put it on. So we watched the episode, which is about a full hour long. When this episode ends, I have sat through 3 episodes of Community and 1 episode of this other show, and I realize how much time has passed. It honestly went by in a blink of an eye because I was coming in and out of consciousness this whole time. Like, I was wide awake, but I was not there. Over the next half hour, I'm finally coming down from my high, and I'm very glad that I didn't take edibles because this high would have lasted much longer. But luckily, since I smoked it, I came down pretty quickly. At this point, I can carry a conversation, but my memory is still not working too great. My mom eventually comes home, and Cameron starts telling her about my fun little incident. My mom looks at me and says, "Wow, are you still really high?" At this point, I tell her, "No, I'm coming down," which I was thankful for because her boyfriend was coming over that night, and he definitely does not need to see me in that state of mind. I think the best part about this story is that I was on such a low level of THC. 7% THC for most people isn't a whole lot, and it was only a half gram pre-roll. Cameron got a really good kick out of my low tolerance, and they still laugh about my low tolerance every day. While I was high, I felt really good. Like, I was happy and elated, but also I was experiencing some really good pain relief. But the entire time there was a voice in the back of my head that was a bit paranoid. That tiny voice was telling me that, this is the end for us, man. From the dizziness to the muscle spasms, I was genuinely concerned about how I would come out of this high. Luckily for me, once the high was over, I completely reverted back to normal. The muscle spasms in my leg didn't change the pain levels once the high was over. Sometimes coming out of highs is the worst part for me because I really only experience the pain relief while I'm high. So when I start coming out of my high, I start to feel that pain again, and it kind of comes on slowly. So even though I mentally didn't really like being this high, it really helped me physically, and since my pain was so relieved from this high, coming out from that high and experiencing this rush of pain was pretty upsetting. To this day, I'm not really sure if it was worth being that high, but since then I have been more careful about my dosage, so I don't feel like I'm constantly falling over and I can't carry a conversation. From the time my mom got home to the time her boyfriend came over, I had about a half an hour more to sober up. Luckily, by the time her boyfriend was over, I was pretty much back to normal and we could laugh it all off, and I didn't have to make a complete embarrassment of myself in front of him. The nice thing about weed is that if you do overdo it, you'll probably come out fine, honestly. But anyway, I thought that was a fun little story for you guys. I am curious if any of you had a similar experience to mine and how much weed you had to take to get to that point. I mean, obviously I have a super low tolerance, so some people might have to smoke a ton more to get that high. If you are interested in more videos talking about my experience with weed or other stories from my life, please consider subscribing, it really helps me out. But I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.